Well, hey, church family, my name is Ryan, and I have the privilege and honor of bringing you another daily devotional from Mark chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. And in today's particular passage, we're going to see a couple of Jesus's disciples, his closest followers, and students of Jesus approach Jesus and ask if they could sit at his right and left hand when he enters into his kingdom. Now, for James and John, these two gentlemen, they thought that when Jesus entered into Jerusalem, that he was going to take over Jerusalem and take over the world with force and power, and that he was going to be basically elevate himself as king, and they wanted to sit at the king's right and left hand. And so they asked Jesus, can we sit at your right and left when you enter into your kingdom? But they had a little bit of a misunderstanding about who Jesus was and what his true mission was all about. And so Jesus responds to them and says this: "You do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? Are you able to be baptized with the baptism of suffering I must be baptized with?" And being zealous young men, thinking that they were about to just go to war, they responded and said, "Oh, yes, we are. We are able." And then Jesus told them, "You will indeed drink from my bitter cup and be baptized with my baptism of suffering. But I have no right to say who will sit on my right and who will sit on my left. God has prepared those places for the ones that he has chosen." Now, for the disciples, not just James and John, they were all concerned about who would be in positions of power and authority when Jesus entered into his kingdom. They thought, a lot like we think today, what about me? What will happen to me? Will I get to be top dog? Will I get to be number one? Will I get to be the CEO? Will I get to be the coach? Will I get to be the president? Will I get to be the principal? Will I get to be the head of my company? What about me? What's going to happen to me? I want to be, the best. I want to be in charge. And Jesus sort of corrects them and he says, hey, the leaders of this world, they lord their authority over those under them. But among you, in verse 43, Jesus says this, "But among you, it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must become your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must become the slave of everyone else. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to lay his life down as a ransom for many." So I don't know if you're anything like me or if you're like the disciples, but more often than not, I'm more concerned about me than I am the person next to me. And because I'm a follower of Jesus and I love Jesus, I want to become more like him. And Jesus is saying right here that a leader in the kingdom of God must become a servant, not somebody who lords their authority over others. Now, practically speaking, for me, that means stepping in the gap. More practically, in my own home, if I see a need, I must proactively do something about it to serve my wife and children. Now, I'll be frank with you. I am not the best at this, but I'm working at it. I want to serve my family. I want to serve and be a servant to my family. How about what does this look like for us in the church? If we see a gap that we can actually fill and step into, why not do it? Why not follow in Jesus' footsteps, become a servant, and be considered great in the kingdom of God by filling those gaps? I pray that this blesses you and it encourages you to follow in Jesus' footsteps by simply serving in the way that he served and be considered great in the same way that he was great, a servant among many.